How you doing, YouTube? Today we're back with a brand new video. In this video, I'm going to be plastering a full garden room. You've seen me insulate plasterboard the ceiling and the walls on this job, so I'm going to run you through how I re-skim over fresh plasterboard. I would say it would be a pretty large room. The ceiling's not that high, but the walls are big, so we're going to be skimming from this corner, the whole way till that corner, including the ceiling. We're going to do it all in one hit. It's currently 11 o'clock, so we've been here most of the morning getting everything prepped and ready to go. Yeah, so I'm going to set you up on a time lapse on the mount, and I'm just going to go through step by step how I would do such a big room. Okay, so again, with all the videos that I've done from this job, I'm going to do a little bit of a voiceover. Now, this voiceover isn't going to be the whole video because I went over how to plaster a million times, and if you want a specific how-to video, that's going to be, I'll leave a link in the description. So in this job, it was a bit of a nightmare because the ceiling was so low. It was too high to get just from standing on the ground, but it was too low from the stilts. So you can see here, my head's all over to the side. So my back was aching by the time I get home. So when it comes to skimming this much, over plasterboard would be the only time I would ever do this. With plasterboard, as long as it's new, you know that there's not going to be any suction. You know, it's not going to go too fast or too slow. Most likely the plaster's just going to go the exact right amount of time. It was slightly warmer than usual, so yeah, I would ideally wanted it to be cooler, but unfortunately, you can't always have it always. You can see here, most people will go and fill out their joints. I actually don't do that. So what I'll do is, instead of filling the whole joint, I'll just fill them as I go. And the reason that I do this is because when you spread the plaster onto the ceiling or the wall, it starts, because you've thinned it out, the air starts to get to it, and it will start to not set but dry, because you spread it thin. If you go and sort of put all your joints on and then come back and try to re-skim, especially a ceiling this size, by the time I get back to the first bit of ceiling that I done, you're going to have the issue where it's going to have started drying out a little bit, and then what you'll get from there is every time you trowel it after that, it's going to be dried a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. So that's the reason I've just filled them as far as my stroke brings me that time. You can see here, this is a pretty big set. I mixed 4 buckets of water, which is around 3.5 each bags, and the first coat, the first bucket that I mixed actually wasn't even enough to do everything that needed to be put on. Usually what you would do would be your first mix fills all your tracks and everything like that there. In your second mix, you mix a bit less because you haven't to put it on as thick. So what I done was just mix the same amount twice. and then that gave me some extra plaster to finish the last wall. So big giant ceilings like this, we're going to take them in sections. So you see that I've worked from the window backwards. I've done them in big giant sections, and that just makes sure that we can do the same sections as we go. Big ceilings like this definitely need to be done off stilts. If you're going to do them off hop-ups, you're going to run into issues because you really realistically need to walk them. So what walking them is we'll put our trowel on the ceiling and we'll walk the length of the ceiling back and forward. You'll see me do it here with the speed skim. This is walking the ceiling, and this is actually the same process we'll use for finishing the ceiling. We'll walk it back and forward, but the next time that we walk the ceiling, we'll be doing it with our trowel and not a speed skim. I often get people ask me, why don't you just finish the ceiling with the speed skim? And the reason for that is that you just can't get enough pressure. The blades aren't strong enough to put the amount of pressure needed to finish a ceiling. You probably could do it, but it's going to be like really crappy looking basically. So now we've put the ceiling on and we've flattened it down with our speed skim. We're going to concentrate on throwing our walls on. So for anybody that hasn't plastered before, if you're left-handed, you're going to want to start at the right-hand side of the room. You want to do the top of your first wall, and then you want to drop back and do the bottom. You want to completely throw the wall on and then move on to the next wall. The same way you do the ceiling in sections, you do walls in sections. The reason we do this is when everything starts to set, it'll set. Basically, most of the time, it'll set from the start. So I've put on this wall. When I come back to start finishing, this wall will be the first one I do because it was the first one put on. And you do that unless something's changed. So when we're working in houses where we're plastering over old plaster, a lot of the times you'll put walls on and one wall will set faster than the other. In that case, you go to the wall that's setting the fastest. But the rule of thumb, and the majority of the time, you're going to finish the wall that you done first, basically. When we're doing our first coat, we're going to fill out down our beads. So it's important that your very first coat that you completely fill the bead. The bead sits about 1 mil to 2 mils per out of the plasterboard. And if you don't fill it, then you get a big hollows, and you can see them when you shine light across it, basically. So you can see here, just filling out the bead either side. And it's the same around the windows, window reveals, that sort of thing. So we scrim tape this whole room up as well. Anytime where you have plasterboard meeting plasterboard, or plasterboard meeting old wall, or a crack in a wall, you want a scrim tape. Scrim tape is like a fiberglass mesh, and we put it over, and it stops things from cracking the majority of the time. The only time scrim tape wouldn't stop a crack from reappearing is if it's like a structural crack, where the issue with the structure hasn't been fixed and there's still movement in the joint. The other one would be like if you have where two bits of plasterboard meet and the plasterboard is loose. Either one or both bits of the plasterboard's loose and there's movement, you'll get cracks there as well. So Scrim tape's very important when you're plastering. You can never get away with not taping a joint. It's a good way to have to go back to fix your walls because they've all cracked, basically. So when we're using the speed skim too, you can see it's actually left some lines on the ceiling. So before we put our second coat on, we'll take any lines that's on the ceiling off. If your first coat isn't completely flat, what happens, it'll show up on the next coat. So we're going to use the same process here with the walls. We're going to use our speed skim. Now, the old plasters would tell you that this, what I'm doing here is no good and you need to close your walls in with the trowel. But I don't think so. Like this blade is metal, and it flattens everything in pretty well, to be honest with you. And it's the main reason why I can actually put so much plaster on the wall, is because I flatten everything with a speed skim. So instead of it taking me, you see here, that's me flattening any lines out. Instead of it taking me the same amount of time it took me to put the stuff on the wall to flatten it, it takes me no time at all to get it flat, and then that leaves us ready for a second coat. So I'm not going to narrate the whole video, but basically what we'll do is we'll follow the same process again. We go the same way, we coat everything the same. We'll flatten it again with speed skim. If you have a speed skim or a plastic blade, I wouldn't be closing in my second coat of plaster with it, only if it's a metal blade. The plastic blades draw moisture to the surface, and then the air around it wicks it away, and it actually makes your plaster dry a lot faster. So if you're going to use a speed skim on your second coat, make sure that it has a metal blade. That's a big mistake a few people's made that have messaged me. It's a mistake that I made myself when I first got the speed skims. Yeah, once we've flattened it out with the speed skim, then we're going to do our first close in. We'll just go around the whole thing and sort of flatten it with our trowel, even though it's nice and flat from our speed skim. We'll just go and take any lines and bumps off it. After that, we're going to use our cutting trowel. So our cutting trowel is a brand new part worn Prima shape trowel. We use this because it's blunt and it takes too much plaster off. You can't finish with it. Usually, to make it a finishing trowel, we would use it with sand and cement for a few months, breaking in. But it's good for your first trowel, basically your first trowel up. What it does is it'll remove a decent layer of the plaster, and it takes any lumps and bumps and stuff out. You use a nice amount of pressure, and at a decent angle, and you do it when the plaster's firm to the touch, but it's not starting to dry out. And then after that, we'll use our Rafina Superflex 2. It's basically a flexi trowel, and then we'll give it its last trowel with a flexi. If it hasn't got the finish that you want, there's nothing stopping you from going with another trowel, with a flexi trowel. So usually I hit it with a flexi just as the plaster turns from grey to black. And again, if you want to give it its final trowel and then give it one more after that, you can just use the flexi trowel again, or do it like the old school plasters used to do and actually polish it. You'll see at the end of this video, this plaster is actually pretty shiny. But if you did want to go ahead and polish it, just use a regular plastering trowel and give it a good hard polish while it's dry, or when it's as it's satin, and you'll get a nice shiny finish. Not that the painter will thank you for it, but yeah. So I'm just going to let this video play through, and I'm actually going to put a little bit of music over the top. Yeah, I'll do an intro at the end. Thanks for watching. Okay, so that's me done for today. As you can see, we've got this all skimmed. If they come back, there's a window going under this wall, and we're just waiting on that going in before we come back and finish the rest. You can see the ceiling, nice shiny finish, and then two of the walls are nice. And this was skimming over insulated plasterboard, which is basically just the same as skimming over plasterboard. The only difference being is that the heat is a lot more. Because the whole room's insulated now, it's actually really warm. There's a really strong breeze as well. So I'm stuck where if I open the window, the breeze is drying the plaster too fast. And if I just leave the window closed, then the heat in the room setting it off too fast. So as you see, we never really got a break today. We just had to sort of horse it on through, but yeah, that's just done. If you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, turn on the bell, get notified when a new video goes live. If you want to support, you can go ahead and become a member on the channel. Members get an extra video every month, and all these videos are up 2 weeks before everybody else watches them. There's a few other things that you get there as well. You can support me on Patreon, my Buy Me Coffee link, or in the description below there's Amazon affiliate links. The way the affiliate links works is you click on one of the links, buy a tool that I use, and then you get then I get a small percentage of it. Yeah, it doesn't cost you anymore, but it sort of supports me, so it's a good way to support me. Check out my social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.